we could do over the course of the year, we came up with this. Now, the schools have been working on this for the last few years, but some departments were ahead of others, some grade levels were ahead of others. So we kind of said, okay, how do we try to, in 3 or 4 years, try to get everybody to complete their units? Now, for example, at the elementary school, it's a lot more difficult because the teachers there teach everything. You know, you teach ELA, math, science, social studies, whereas in the other grades, you know, 5th and 6th, they tend to do 2 at a time, but you still have 2 areas to worry about. 7 and 8 on up to the high school, you're going class by class that you teach. So you may have 2 classes to develop units for, maybe it's English 9 and English 11. That's still a lot, but we took a look at what had already been done and where we need to be, and we said, okay, how far do we push people? So we're looking at it as if we have 50% of them done. The monkey wrench that got into this year was they're changing the frameworks. So we got to go back and look at all those and then try to add a few new ones.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because then the next goal is 70%. Is that, I mean, it was 50, if 50% was a lofty goal, then 70% is going to be a huge one with frameworks being switched.
I don't think so, because like, you know, I tried to explain in relation to school climate versus curriculum, we have put in place, I think, enough time in the summer to bring people in to do the work. And we do have, for the following year, you do have those staff development days in which people can do some of the work. We also have some release time for the staff or after hours stipends for people to do some of this work. And then teachers go on and do a lot of it on their own. Like I said, the 50% may look big being the first year that we've done it this way, but some of that was already done.
Okay.
So what I was looking for was, what would it take to get 4 years out, have everybody done? And the high school, I'm hoping, will be way ahead of the pack because they need to get them done before the accreditation team gets here. So when we look at, you know, how to develop the budget and where we're going to put the staff development funding, the high school is going to get a big chunk of that so they can continue working on their units a lot, right? So we can get them, hopefully, way ahead of the pack.
Okay.
So it's different for each building. It's not the same for everybody because some people are hitting some deadlines that are more, you know, critical than others.
Tony?
For the chair, Mrs. Ponce, what is developmental design?
It's the middle school version of responsive classroom.
And that one goal may need to be changed this way. This is draft because for that, I really don't have the funding, and we try to see if there was even people interested, and we haven't had a lot of interest in terms of giving away a week of your summer. So that goal may have to be changed, but it's still one of those things that you have to ask a building, what are you doing to ensure that, one, the kids have some amount of character development and some amount of programming towards training students what it means to be responsible and respectful in a building. Those kind of things don't go away no matter whether you have the program or the training or not. So what are you going to do instead? But again, it's one of those goals that we may not be able to attack this year.
I have a quick question for you too. The student organizations, personal growth. I've seen the list at the schools of all of the clubs and whatnot. There's quite a few that are offered at the middle school, and you're looking to grow it more. I guess my only concern is, are we adding clubs and things that are picking up 2 kids, and are we even able to pay the fee or the stipend to the person that's running the club? So, you know, are we getting in over our heads? Are we able to combine clubs maybe and use the same person to do a couple of things instead of, you know, having 3 kids sign up, paying the $30 or $25 club fee? That certainly isn't going to cover the stipend for the person that's going to be running that. So, you know, I'd hate to see us get so big on those that we can't pay our people.
I I think most of the clubs have a pretty good following. There are quite a few students that do go. The book clubs seem to do really well. And I know that the science fair is something that they're really looking forward to. As far as combining some of the other ones, I don't know, I would have to look and see how many students are in each, and, it's definitely a possibility for something,
It's
that's
just something that
compatible.
would, looking at it, knowing how low the fee is for that, if you've only got a small number of kids that are signing up, are we actually being able to pay the stipend? And I think somebody wanted to use the Education Foundation, I believe, for the science
The
thing.
science fair, yep.
So I know that some of them are looking outside to get some, help. But I just, was curious. I know there's some robotics clubs and some collectors things that I find it hard to imagine that there's a lot of kids signing up for some of those, but.
There are quite a few. Robotics, I'm not sure. But yeah, I know for the book clubs, for the ELA teachers and the people that come in and do them, they do have a good following, and they do have some in 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th.
Okay.
So in the science fair, I know is something that the children.
Well, I think
are
that's
speaking about.
wonderful.
Yeah.
But I was just more talking the smaller stuff. Just
Certainly
wondering.
something to look at.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
Hi. As I'm looking at the student achievement assessment, speak of the collection and analyzing of data, any idea, is there perhaps an anticipation of what the results of the MCAS scores will be as they get reported out?
What they
Because
will be?
Correct. I mean, the teachers are spending time with the students. You went through the experience of the MCAS. That to me is one of the biggest data collection, analyzing functions. And I know we don't have the scores yet. We're hoping, I think as a school committee in general, to see the continued growth curve. Just didn't know your thoughts. And I don't mean to put you on the spot. I know you're, and that's why I'm asking you, because you've been there for a short time, but MCAS was going on when you were in the building, or?
No, right after. I was doing 4th grade MCAS.
Okay.
Sorry.
I
Well,
wouldn't let her move until that's finished.
I had to finish with the 4th grade first.
So from the 4th grade, so you really don't have a perspective then on the middle school?
I think 4th grade will be great, though.
Okay, well, that I appreciate. So we'll look forward to those results.
Write that down.
Thank you.
We're going to hold you to that.
We'll take a look at your scores.
Anything
Thanks.
else?
We're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Tudelo, I think you're up.
This past year, relative to assessment and instruction, we spent much time collecting information on what instruments teachers are using to assess student learning and what types of instructional practices they're using. So we do have quite a bank that we have collected, and that will be useful to us next year when we initiate our self-study. The assessment piece, what we really tried to focus on was not the big assessments, which we are very good with, which are final exams, MCAS standardized testing, common tasks, but we really wanted to get more into day-to-day, how do you assess students as they're going along before they get to that point where they're faced with that larger chunk of material that they are responsible for. So we have collected lots of information on that, and that will be helpful to us next year for our NEAS self-study. Common tasks, we continue to develop them this year. We focused on grade 11 because that was our target, and we will finish those off next year with grade 12. In the area of curriculum, as Superintendent mentioned, that is an area where we do need some work. While right now we do have a written curriculum guide for every course that is offered at the high school, we do need to change that into a unit of study format. In February, when we had the Professional Development Day, the two supervisors for math and ELA, along with Dr. Condon, introduced the concept of unit of study, and some of the middle school teachers were kind enough to come up and give their experiences on writing the units of study, because they have written so many more. And then right after school gets out, departments will be meeting, and then there is a group of us going to the summer ASCD conference in Boston, which will focus on writing curriculum as one of their themes. And then, of course, we have the Summer Institute in August. So those three pieces, curriculum, assessment, and instruction, will continue to be the focus for next year as we begin our NEAS self-study. In the area of school climate, as you've heard me report a few times this year, our focus was the climate of the school, especially relative to the change in schedule. And I think that we all recognize that there were some things that were a dramatic change for the students and staff. And after your last meeting, we are returning to the 4x4 block next year. And just to remind you, even in working on scheduling this week, especially in some areas like math and science, that does allow students opportunity to accelerate, take 2 courses in 1 year, 1 semester 1 semester 2, and that was something that was a huge gap this past year for the students. In the 9th grade this year, we implemented the language-based classroom model for a group of students, and our intent for next year is to expand that into grade 10. We found some of those strategies to be very successful with the students, particularly 9th graders, because that is a transition year for them. And many of the teachers who were trained in that LBL model also implemented those strategies across the board in their non-LBL classes as well. We did train a staff that works in the past classroom with the Boys Town model. Again, some of those strategies were very successful, and we will continue to implement those strategies next year, but we also recognize the need to tweak that program a little bit. In talking to the principals of other schools who have worked with it, those strategies are clearly very successful with the younger students, the 9th and the 10th graders, and that has been our experience this year. We've had 9th and 10th graders in the program that have been very successful with it. It is a tough sell to the older students who have more or less already made up their mind on the path that they are going to follow during and after high school. In terms of school resources, we were able to maintain this year all of the athletics and activities that we offered last year. Again, as I indicated at an earlier meeting, we did see a slight decrease in participation in those activities this year. I do attribute some of it to the increase in the number of ineligible students that we saw this year, up by about 30 students each term, and that will be our goal for next year, to maintain the same. The one thing, I believe this was a question that was raised earlier in the year, we had started out 3 years ago with a co-op ice hockey team with Dartmouth, and then for the last year, 2 years, Dartmouth has been able to sustain on their own, and so therefore no new students could join the ice hockey team, but it has been brought to my attention that that may reopen next year, so that would be another opportunity open for students in athletics.
Any questions for Mrs. Sudlow? I don't know if this would fall under instruction or curriculum, or even if making the changes back into the block scheduling will have affected this. Is there, at the junior level, is there still being offered because as far as I know, that's the only level this is affected, the 3 levels of English classes, your AP English, as well as the honors English, as well as just the regular English, or is that now the middle one going away and only having the AP being offered?
I would not say it's going away. Last year, we had the opportunity to participate in a grant that would have helped us expand the AP program. Mm-hmm. While we did not end up getting the grant, we did collect and look at a lot of our programs and in terms of how we could expand the AP program here. Through this year, in grade 12, AP, the language portion and the literature portion were offered in the senior year. Mm-hmm. Many students found that overwhelming, and our enrollment, quite frankly, was always low in that year long. So one of the recommendations that came out of our research for the grant was to separate the AP over 2 years, the AP language going to grade 11, the literature staying in grade 12. So in essence, our AP 11, as